My husband thought it'd be funny to crack a joke during his birthday speech that he settled for me. Everyone around us burst out laughing. Everyone except me. Hey, Reddit. Honestly, I don't even know where to start. It feels like my whole marriage flipped upside down in a single moment, and now I'm questioning whether I'm just being overly sensitive, or if I finally woke up to something I've been ignoring for years. I'm Harper, 38, and I've been married to Gavin, who's 40, for nearly 9 years now. We met through some mutual friends, dated for a couple of years, and when he asked me to marry him, I truly felt like I'd hit the jackpot. Gavin was that guy everyone naturally gravitated toward. He had this magnetic energy, always confident, effortlessly charming, the center of attention wherever he went. He had a way of looking at people, like he could really see you, like he understood something about you that no one else did. I've never been someone who craved the spotlight. I'm more of a quiet type. Give me a meaningful one-on-one talk over a loud party any day. But when I was with Gavin, he made me feel noticed. He made me feel like I was the most important person in the room, even when that room was full of people who couldn't get enough of him. At least, that's how it felt at the time. Looking back now, I'm starting to question whether I confused charm with something more meaningful. Maybe I fell for the way he made me feel in the moment, without paying enough attention to how he really treated me over time. But we'll get to that. It all came to a head last weekend. Gavin's birthday rolled around, and as usual, he wanted to go all out. Quiet dinners and small get-togethers just aren't his thing. No, he wanted the works, a private room at a fancy restaurant, over 31 guests, a wide-open bar. Both sets of our parents were there, his and mine. His brothers showed up. My sister was there too, along with a mix of friends we'd gathered over the years. It was the kind of night Gavin lived for. And I'd spent weeks putting it all together. I made sure every detail was right, the perfect venue, his favorite foods on the menu, decorations that struck the right balance between elegant and festive. He never asked me to do all of it, but I did it anyway. Because that's what you do when you love someone, right? The evening started off great. People were mingling, drinking, catching up. Gavin was floating around, lighting up every conversation like he always did, clearly in his element. I mostly stuck by my sister and a couple of close friends. I was enjoying myself, but I was also keeping an eye on things to make sure everything stayed on track. Then, after dinner, someone clinked their glass and asked for a speech. Naturally, Gavin didn't hesitate for a second. He jumped right up. He lives for speeches. Any reason to take the spotlight, get people laughing, hold the room in the palm of his hand. I remember watching him and smiling, expecting the same kind of warm, slightly tipsy speech he always gives, something heartfelt about how lucky he feels, how grateful he is. And for the first few minutes, that's exactly how it went. Then he turned to me. And of course, he said, lifting his glass in my direction, I have to thank my gorgeous wife, Harper. I smiled, bracing myself for something sweet. Then he grinned and added, the most patient woman on the planet. I mean, let's be real, I definitely settled. And the room erupted. Full-on laughter. His youngest brother practically spit out his drink. My dad let out a chuckle. His mom had to cover her mouth, shoulders shaking with amusement. Meanwhile, my cheeks were burning. My stomach tightened. I forced myself to smile. Gavin, either oblivious or just riding the energy of the room, kept right on going. I mean, come on, let's not kid ourselves. I was the catch here, right? Harper had to snatch me up before someone else did. More laughter. A few exaggerated groans from the crowd. My sister glanced at me with a strained, uncomfortable smile. Someone across the room shouted, "Wow, dude," in that half-laughing, half-cringing kind of way. All I wanted in that moment was to disappear. Gavin must have noticed the look on my face, because he gave me a little wave and laughed again. Oh, come on, babe. You know I love you. You got the deal of a lifetime. That's when something shifted in me. Up until that moment, I might have told myself he was just being silly, that I was taking it too seriously. But when I looked at him, I didn't see someone who'd made a slip or realized he'd gone too far. I saw a man who actually meant what he said. And I realized this wasn't some one-off thing. It had been happening all along. All the little digs over the years. The way he'd talk about our relationship, always framing it like I was lucky to have him. The jokes he made about my cooking, my clothes, how quiet I am in social settings, not in a teasing, affectionate way, but in a way that made it clear he thought I was the one who had to catch up to him. I had let those things slide for years, but sitting there that night, surrounded by people laughing at my expense, something inside me just shut down. The rest of the evening is a blur. I smiled when I was supposed to, laughed when it felt right, played the part. But my thoughts were spiraling. When we finally got back home, Gavin was still on a high. He flopped down on the couch, kicked off his shoes, stretched out like he was completely content. "That was such a great night," he said. "You really nailed it, babe." I didn't answer right away. I was standing by the bedroom door, gripping the knob so hard it hurt. Finally, I asked, "Do you really believe that?" He blinked. "Believe what?" "That you settled." Gavin laughed, like the whole thing was absurd. "Oh, come on, Harper. You know I didn't mean it that way. It was just a joke." "But do you believe it?" He sat up, let out a sharp breath. "Harp, don't do this. It was a birthday speech. Everyone was just having a good time. You're turning it into something it's not." I didn't argue. I just nodded and went to bed. But sleep never came. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, feeling like a weight was crushing my chest. And somewhere in the middle of the night, with Gavin snoring beside me, I made up my mind. No tears. No big, dramatic moment. I just got out of bed, grabbed a suitcase, and began packing. I moved slowly, trying not to make a sound. I only took what I needed: my ID, some cash and cards, a few sets of clothes. I placed my wedding ring on the dresser. Then I picked up my keys, stepped outside, and called a ride. I checked into a hotel. My phone was lighting up with message after message from Gavin. At first, they were light. "Hey babe, where'd you go? You okay?" But when I didn't reply, they turned frantic. "Harper, this isn't funny. Please call me." Now I'm sitting here on this firm hotel bed, staring down at my phone as the messages keep rolling in. Each buzz sends a jolt through my chest, but I haven't opened any of them. Not yet. The city outside my window was still, like it was holding its breath. It had to be around 2 or 3 in the morning, but my brain refused to quiet down. That's when it really hit me, what I'd just done. I walked out. No big fight. No warning. No dramatic scene. Just left. A wave of guilt started creeping in. I could already picture Gavin storming through the house, running his fingers through his hair, probably muttering to himself in confusion, trying to make sense of it all. But there was another feeling too, tucked beneath the guilt, something unexpected. Relief. A part of me that had been slowly fading in the background of our marriage finally exhaled. I took a deep breath, locked my phone, and tossed it onto the nightstand beside me. I needed to clear my head. I needed to figure out what the hell I was going to do next. Nobody knew where I was. I hadn't told a soul. Not my sister. Not my parents. Not even Naomi, my best friend. And if I did tell anyone, they'd have something to say about it. Some would tell me to go home and smooth it over. Others would tell me to get a lawyer ASAP. But I wasn't ready for either. I just needed some breathing room. So I lay there for hours, wide awake, listening to the low drone of the hotel air conditioner while I stared blankly at the ceiling. I kept replaying the entire night in my mind like a movie I couldn't turn off. The way everyone laughed. The little glances passed around the table. The way Gavin had spoken about me like I was lucky just to be with him. Maybe he's always felt that way. Maybe I just didn't want to see it because I loved him so much. By the time the first light of morning started creeping through the blinds, my phone had finally gone silent. Gavin had either passed out or decided to stop chasing me for now. I rolled onto my side, weighed down by exhaustion, but I still couldn't sleep. A different thought started creeping in, one I hadn't dared consider yet. What now? Leaving in the middle of the night had felt powerful, like I was finally taking the wheel. But now, with the sun rising and reality creeping in, I realized I had no clue what I was doing next. I couldn't live in a hotel forever. I had a job. We had a house. My things, my life, were still sitting there, untouched. What was I going to do? Just as I was debating whether to reach out to Naomi or my sister, my screen lit up again. But this time, it wasn't Gavin. It was his mom. Of course. She'd always been entangled in our relationship, not in a warm, supportive way, but in that overbearing kind of way that made it clear she thought her son was some rare treasure I should be endlessly thankful to have. I let the phone ring. Then came the voicemail notification. I stared at it for a moment, then curiosity got the better of me. I hit play. Her voice came through cold and clipped, barely hiding her irritation. "Harper," she began, "I assume you're done with this little tantrum and will be coming back home shortly. You've embarrassed Gavin enough. Call me back." That was it. No concern. No wondering what might have happened. No asking why I left. Just orders. I let out a sharp breath, gripping the phone tighter. But honestly, I wasn't even surprised. She'd always seen me as background noise to Gavin's spotlight, the one quietly holding things together so he could keep shining. She never truly liked me, but she put up with me because I made her son happy, or at least, I used to. I deleted the voicemail without a second thought, but reality was closing in fast. Gavin wasn't going to let this slide. He wouldn't let me walk out without trying to pull me back, not out of love, but because his ego wouldn't be able to handle it. And his family? Oh, they'd make sure I felt every ounce of guilt for daring to leave. I needed to stop spinning in place. I needed to act. So I picked up my phone and finally did what I should have done the minute I left. I texted Naomi. "Me, you awake?" I sat there, tension crawling up my back like ice. I half expected her not to answer, but the typing bubbles popped up almost immediately. "Naomi, oh. What happened?" I hesitated, then typed. "Me, I left Gavin." The pause between messages felt like forever. "Naomi, where are you?" "Me, hotel. Please don't tell anyone." "Naomi, I'll be there in 20. And, just like that, I could breathe again. Naomi was the one person I could always count on. She'd never liked Gavin, never said it outright, but you could tell in the way she chose her words carefully around him, the way she never genuinely laughed at his jokes. And once, after one too many glasses of wine, she told me she didn't think he was even capable of true kindness. I hadn't believed her then. Even now, I wasn't sure I was ready to. I stayed seated on the edge of the bed, staring at her last message. 20 minutes. Not long at all, but it felt endless when your mind won't shut off. The room was quiet except for the hum of the AC. I felt weirdly detached from everything, like I was watching myself from above, like none of this was actually happening. I glanced around. My half-zip suitcase was sitting on the floor. I'd only packed the essentials, just enough to get me through a couple of days. But now the weight of it all started pressing down on me. I had no roadmap beyond leave. I raked a hand through my hair and let out a slow, shaky breath. Gavin still hadn't called again, but I knew that silence wouldn't last. He wasn't the kind of man to let go. Even if he didn't admit it, he liked to have control. A sharp knock on the door pulled me out of my thoughts. 3 quick taps. I hesitated, then peeked through the peephole. Naomi stood there, her hands shoved into the pockets of a baggy sweater, eyes sweeping the hallway. I opened the door without a word. She stepped inside, took one look around, then turned toward me with an unreadable expression. "Okay," she said, closing the door gently behind her. "Start from the top." I sank down onto the bed while she pulled the chair up by the window, crossed her legs, and waited, calm but alert. For a second, the words just wouldn't come. Everything felt so clear in my head, but saying it out loud, that was different. I swallowed hard. His birthday party. Naomi gave a small nod, like she already had a hunch. What happened? I exhaled, slow and shaky. He made a speech. And he said he settled for me. In front of everyone. Like it was some hilarious joke. Her jaw clenched. And they all laughed. I looked down, my hands knotting the edge of the blanket. I don't know why, but that was the moment it hit me. It just snapped something inside. Naomi didn't say anything right away. She just stared for a moment, eyes clouded with something heavy. Then she shook her head slowly. He's always been like this, Harper. I frowned. What do you mean? You know what I mean, she said gently, but firmly. You've always been the one holding everything together. Always bending, adjusting, making sure he was okay. I used to cover for him, you know? Every time Gavin said something cruel or thoughtless, I'd rush to explain it away. Make excuses. Pretend he didn't mean it. And the worst part? He never even noticed. I wanted to tell Naomi she was wrong, that it wasn't that black and white. But the words never made it out. Because deep down, I already knew she was right. For years, I'd been telling myself his jokes were just jokes. That his little comments were meaningless. That every couple had moments like that. But now, I wasn't so sure anymore. Naomi let out a breath and rubbed her temples like she was holding back 100 things at once. Okay, she said. So, what's the plan? I hesitated. I don't know. Do you want to leave for good? She asked, her tone careful, like she didn't want to push. Or are you waiting to see what he does? That was the heart of it, wasn't it? The real question buried beneath all the noise. Because as much as I wanted to say I was done, absolutely done, some part of me was still hoping for something. An apology? Some moment of clarity? A reason to believe I hadn't wasted nearly a decade of my life on someone who never truly saw me? I'm not sure yet, I finally admitted. Naomi studied me for a beat, then gave a small nod. All right. First things first, let's get you somewhere safe. She paused. Come stay at my place. I hesitated. What if he shows up there? If he does, she said flatly, he better be okay with leaving in crutches. I actually cracked a smile. A real one. Just a little. But it was enough. Okay, I said softly. Your place. Naomi didn't waste a second. She scooped up my suitcase, slung her purse over her shoulder, and motioned toward the door. Let's go. We'll figure the rest out later. I paused just for a moment before following her into the hallway. Outside that hotel room, the air felt different, lighter, somehow. Like I'd left behind more than just a bed and a keycard. As we drove, Naomi kept things light. She chatted about work, mentioned people we both knew, even gossiped a little about her boss's terrible haircut. She didn't ask questions. Didn't press. And I was grateful for that, because I wasn't ready to spill everything again. Not yet. By the time we reached her apartment, I felt like I'd been awake for a century. Every inch of me was worn out, emotionally, physically, mentally. You can crash in the guest room, she said, locking the door behind us. And don't even think about feeling bad. I don't mind. You stay as long as you need. I murmured a thank you, but she waved it off like it was nothing. Just rest. We'll talk in the morning. I tried. Really, I did. But sleep refused to come. Because I knew deep down this wasn't over. When I woke up the next day, my phone was overflowing with messages. Not just from Gavin, but from mutual friends, his brother Trent, and, of course, his mother. I didn't open a single one. But the previews were enough to paint a picture. Trent's message was smug and dismissive. You're being dramatic. Brianna, who called herself my friend, wrote, Gavin's a mess. Just talk to him. And his mother? She outdid herself. I always knew you were selfish. I never thought you'd humiliate my son like this. You'll regret it. I stared at the screen, holding the phone so tight my fingers throbbed. Selfish? I was selfish for finally walking away from the years of quiet humiliation. I exhaled slowly, trying to keep the anger in check. And for a moment, I could feel the old version of me creeping in, the one who questioned herself, who'd apologize just to keep the peace. But not this time. Gavin had spent years slowly diminishing me in front of others, disguising it as humor. And the cruelest part? He didn't even see it. He truly believed I'd stay, no matter what came out of his mouth. He was wrong. Naomi wandered into the kitchen, still groggy, pouring herself a cup of coffee. "How bad?" she asked, glancing at my phone. I gave a dry laugh. "Predictably awful." She rolled her eyes. "Well, of course it is. They're freaking out because their favorite doormat finally stood up." I snorted. "I don't think I was ever their favorite anything." She smirked. "Fair point." Leaning against the counter, coffee in hand, she asked, "So, what now?" And, just like that, something inside me clicked. I suddenly knew exactly what I needed to do. I looked up at her, and a slow, steady smile spread across my face. It's time Gavin finds out what he actually lost. Over the next few days, I went completely silent. No calls. No texts. I ignored every message from Gavin, his family, and our so-called friends. Let them stew in their own mess. And Gavin? He followed the pattern I expected. At first, he was apologetic. Dramatic. He begged. Said I took things the wrong way. That it was all just a joke. But when that didn't work, he flipped the switch. He got angry. Called me selfish. Said I was cruel for walking out like that. Then came the manipulation, the "after all I've done for you" messages, designed to chip away at my confidence. But I didn't budge. While he spiraled, I got organized. I met with a lawyer, quietly, professionally. I had my finances reviewed. See, Gavin had always held the breadwinner title over my head. Constantly reminded me of it, too. He made me feel like I was trapped. Like I needed him just to survive. But what he never realized, I had savings, investments, and more than that, I had patience, something he never possessed. Gavin had always been impulsive with money. I, on the other hand, had been quietly preparing for the possibility that one day I might need to stand on my own. And that day had finally come. When I finally agreed to meet him at our house, I wasn't walking in to make peace. I was walking in prepared. He was slouched on the couch when I walked in, hands in his hair, looking like he hadn't slept. When he saw me, his whole face lit up with relief. "Harper," he said, standing up fast. "Thank God." "Listen, I raised a hand and cut him off. "I'm not here to talk about us, Gavin." He blinked, confused. "Then, why?" I calmly pulled a folder from my bag and placed it on the table in front of him. He looked down, then back up at me. "What's this?" "Divorce papers," I said, my voice calm, unwavering. His face went pale. "What?" "You said you settled for me," I said, tilting my head. "So I'm fixing that for you." He stared at me like I was speaking a language he didn't understand. "Harper, come on. You don't mean this." "I do," I said simply. I gestured toward the folder. "I've already spoken with my lawyer. Everything's fair, more than fair, actually." His mouth opened and closed, trying to find something, anything, to say. "You're really doing this?" Just like that. I gave a cool, practiced smile. Just like that. There was a flicker of something dark in his eyes, then panic, maybe? Anger. He hadn't actually believed I'd leave. Not really. And now? He realized too late that I meant it. I turned to walk away, but paused at the door. "By the way," I said casually, without even looking back, "if you or your family try to make this ugly, just remember, I know exactly where your skeletons are buried." His face twisted. He knew exactly what I meant. No need for me to explain it. And with that, I walked out, didn't glance back once. Update. It's been a few weeks since I left, and to be honest, I feel like a weight's been lifted. Like I can finally take a full breath without wondering what kind of mood Gavin's in, or bracing for some slick insult dressed up as a joke. He, on the other hand, is spiraling. After the initial shock wore off, the messages started again. Not the heartfelt kind. Not apologies. Demands. First, he wanted a mature conversation, which really meant, let's fix this on his terms. Let's pretend it never happened. Let's scrap the divorce. When I didn't take the bait, he got mean. Told me I was destroying his image, making a fool out of him, throwing away something good. And of course, his mother chimed in. Because why wouldn't she? She's been flooding my phone with long, scolding texts, accusing me of humiliating her son, wrecking the family, and walking away from a man I should have been grateful to have. Meanwhile, the mutual friends have started picking sides. Some have quietly messaged me to say they support me, that they always suspected something wasn't right. Others? Not so kind. I've been called dramatic, cold, selfish for leaving the way I did. Like it was some rash decision. Like I hadn't spent years slowly being chipped away by the man they all thought was so funny and charming. So now I'm sitting here, asking Reddit, am I the bad guy for walking away without a long speech or a final confrontation? Am I wrong for refusing to sit through his excuses one more time? For finally deciding to put myself first after spending years playing second fiddle in my own marriage? I'd really like to know what you think.